parents can help me, but then they paid for sister's luxury honeymoon. I asked, maybe now you can help me? Go away, Dad said. I left, but when fiancé stole their cash, they came. When I was laid off, it felt like my world was crumbling. The company brought in some hotshot with better qualifications to replace me, and HR assured me they'd pay me my last month's salary. They never did. I was left with no paycheck, no backup plan, and no time to process it all. I didn't tell anyone. Especially not my parents. I couldn't stand the idea of living under their roof again, under their control. My dad had always been cold about things like that, saying things like, "A real man doesn't run home when things get tough." So I stuck it out. I took out a loan to cover the rent for a while, figuring I'd find something soon enough. But things were going downhill. Every time I found a job that could keep me afloat, either the pay wasn't enough or some random crap would pop up, like a parking ticket I couldn't afford or a tooth infection that cost hundreds in medicine and dental work. I was sinking fast. After a few months of struggling, I finally reached my breaking point. I didn't want to do it, but I went back to my parents' house to ask for help. It was humiliating. We sat around the table, and after a long, awkward silence, my father finally spoke. "We can help you," he said, his tone heavy. My mom apologized quietly, but it didn't soften the blow. I was on my own. I walked out of there feeling like the rug had been pulled out from under me again. A week later, my sister Katie posted a photo on Instagram. She was on a beach in the Maldives with her new husband. "Thank you for the most amazing luxury honeymoon," read the caption, followed by a bunch of heart emojis. I try not to think too much about it. Her fiancé made a decent living, so maybe he'd saved up for the trip. But something nagged at me. I shot her a quick message. "Wow, your husband must have pulled out all the stops for this trip." She replied almost immediately. "Oh no, Mom and Dad paid for it." Isn't that sweet of them? I stared at my phone for a long time. I couldn't wrap my head around it. They couldn't help me when I was drowning in debt, but they had no problem paying for my sister's dream vacation. It felt like a slap in the face. I gave it another month, hoping something would change, but my situation didn't improve. I swallowed my pride and went back to their house. This time they were all smiling when I arrived. We chatted about random things, and for a moment I thought things might actually be different this time. When I mentioned Katie's honeymoon, they said they'd done their best to help her start her new life. I hesitated, then finally asked, "Maybe you can help me now." My father's face immediately hardened. "Go away," he said flatly. "We're not going to help you. You're a man. You need to figure it out for yourself." I didn't argue. I just got up and left. I promised myself then and there that I'd never ask for their help again ever. One way or another, I was going to get myself out of this mess. And if they ever needed me, I wouldn't lift a finger. After my father told me to go away, I spent days fending off anger and disappointment. I threw myself into whatever work I could get. In the mornings, I moved inventory in a warehouse. Afternoons, I delivered groceries. Nights, I worked security at a nightclub. I didn't care how exhausting it was, I wasn't going to beg for anything again. But no matter how hard I worked, life had a way of hitting me with expenses. My car broke down again. Then I got a ticket for parking in a zone that had magically become a tow-away zone overnight. I developed this annoying cough, and because I didn't want it to turn into something serious, I went to a clinic. $100 later, I had antibiotics and an even thinner wallet. Just when I thought I couldn't take another hit, I got an email that changed everything. A startup I'd interviewed with months earlier wanted to hire me. They were growing fast and needed someone to run their marketing operations. It was a modern company and the pay was decent. Within 2 months, I was out of debt, paid off my loan, and even had some savings. But just as I was getting a foothold, the chaos from my family began. One night I got a call from my grandmother. "Peter, it's Katie," she said, her voice sharp with worry. "There's been trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked. She hesitated. I don't know the details, but you should go see her. I brushed it off at first. Probably just a little marital drama. But then my uncle called with a similar warning. And a day later, my mother left a tearful voicemail. Peter, please come home. It's important. Still, I ignored her until my dad called. I hadn't spoken to him since the last time he told me to get lost. We need you to come over, he said, his voice unusually subdued. What's going on? I asked, more irritated than worried. It's Katie, he said. Her husband stole from us. It's serious. That got my attention. I could hear the gravity of the situation in his voice. I didn't want to care, but curiosity got the better of me. When I got to the house, I knew something was seriously wrong. My mother was pacing the living room, her face pale and streaked with tears. Katie was curled up on the couch, her eyes hollow, as if she'd been crying for hours. My dad sat stiffly in his recliner, staring off into space. Okay, I said, crossing my arms. What's this about? My dad cleared his throat. Katie's husband, he's gone, he said quietly. Gone? What do you mean, gone? He stole from us, Katie whispered, barely audible. I frowned. Stole what? Like some things from the house? No. My dad cut in, shaking his head. He took everything. Jewelry, emergency cash, and he emptied the savings accounts. All of it. My mom added, her voice shaking. We trusted him with some of our money, and he disappeared. It's over $50,000. $50,000. My brain froze for a second. I hadn't expected this. I turned to Katie. Did you have any idea he was capable of this? She shook her head. No. He was perfect. He was kind, thoughtful. He was my husband. I thought I knew him. I couldn't help but feel a bitter pang of schadenfreude. The golden child of the family had been betrayed, and now they were all paying the price. My father sighed deeply. We've already filed a police report, but there's no trace of him. And with so much money gone, we're in serious trouble. He paused, then looked me straight in the eye. Peter, we need your help. I let out a short, humorless laugh. My help? Really? That's funny. Peter, please, my mother said, coming closer. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. I looked between the three of them, my mom begging, my dad swallowing his pride, and Katie too broken to even speak. Part of me wanted to tell them to go away, to remind them how easily they had brushed me aside when I needed help. But another part of me couldn't help but feel conflicted. How exactly am I supposed to help? I asked. Because the last time I checked, I wasn't exactly your go-to guy for emergencies. Before anyone could answer, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. My neighbor's name flashed on the screen. Strange. He never called unless it was urgent. I silenced the call and shoved the phone back in my pocket. I needed to hear what other mess was going to come out of this conversation first. But something in the pit of my stomach told me this was just the beginning. I didn't answer my neighbor's call. Whatever he wanted could wait. There was enough craziness going on around here. I crossed my arms and waited for my parents to explain what kind of help they expected from me. We're in a bind, Peter, my father said, his voice strained. We need money. Katie's accounts were tied up in honeymoon expenses. He wiped them out too. We're stuck. You paid for the entire honeymoon, I said, my voice cold. But you couldn't spare a dime when I was drowning. And now you're coming to me for help? Peter, my mother said quietly. It's not like that. We thought everything would be okay. We didn't know he was capable of this. We trusted him, right? Yes, I understand. But you didn't trust me when I needed you. The room fell silent. My dad's jaw clenched. He hated being called out, but I wasn't going to make it easy for them. Katie finally spoke. I didn't know he was lying to me, Peter. I swear. He told me that everything was under control. I thought he loved me. Her voice broke, and I saw real pain in her eyes. Part of me wanted to keep pushing, to remind them all how much they'd hurt me. But I couldn't shake the fact that Katie was truly broken. This wasn't the spoiled little sister I'd grown up resenting. She looked like someone who had just lost everything. Before I could decide what to say next, my phone buzzed again. Same caller, my neighbor. This time I sighed and answered. Yes? I answered, stepping into the hallway to get some distance. Peter, finally! He said, his voice panicked. You need to come back right away. Your apartment, someone broke in. I froze. What? They broke the door, man. I heard the commotion and called the cops, but it's bad. They tore the place apart. Did they catch them? No. They were gone by the time the cops showed up. But your place, it's a mess. You need to come see it. For a moment I couldn't speak. I felt like the universe was playing a sick joke on me. Just when I thought I was finally ahead, life came swinging again. All right, I'll be there soon. I mumbled and hung up. I took a deep breath and walked back into the living room. I have to go, I said abruptly. Go? Peter, wait, dash. My mom started. Someone broke into my apartment, I explained, cutting her off. So yeah, you're gonna have to figure this out without me. My dad sighed heavily. Peter, please. We'll figure out how to get the money later. But right now we just need you to stay and help us sort things out. Are you kidding me? I snapped. You're asking me to help clean up your mess when my own life is falling apart again? They all stared at me, stunned into silence. For once, I didn't feel small under my father's gaze. I didn't feel like the family failure. I felt like the only one here with his priorities straight. Look, I said, my tone calmer now. I understand that this is bad. But you told me to figure things out when I needed you. Now it's your turn. I'll get back to you maybe. Without waiting for an answer, I grabbed my coat and walked out. When I reached my apartment, I felt a wave of fear. The door had been kicked in and was hanging loosely from its frame. One of the neighbors was standing outside talking to a policeman, who nodded when he saw me. Are you the tenant? The officer asked. Yes. What happened? Looks like a targeted break-in, he said. They weren't after anything random. Probably knew what they wanted. Inside, the place was trashed. Furniture overturned, drawers pulled out and thrown everywhere. But it wasn't random chaos, they were looking for something specific. My laptop and television were untouched. They'd headed straight for my bedroom. I stepped inside, my heart pounding. My safe where I kept important documents and some emergency cash was gone. Any enemies? The cop asked casually, scribbling notes. Not that I know of. But as I looked around at the wreckage, I had a sinking feeling. I didn't know if it was paranoia or instinct, but something told me this wasn't a coincidence. Katie's husband had vanished without a trace, stealing tens of thousands of dollars. Now someone had broken into my home and stolen my safe. Was it possible that these two events were somehow connected? The timing was too perfect to ignore. And I had a feeling things were about to get a lot worse. I spent hours with the cops, but they couldn't give me much hope. No witnesses, no usable prints. They said it was probably an opportunistic theft, and gave me the usual speech about securing valuables. Yeah, thanks, I mumbled as they left. My neighbor hung back, looking worried. Peter, I swear it wasn't random. They didn't touch anything else. They went straight into your bedroom. I nodded slowly. Yes. I noticed. After he left, I sat in the wreckage of my apartment, trying to connect the dots. Could this really have something to do with Katie's husband? Or was it just a freak coincidence? I didn't have any solid answers, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in the middle of something bigger than I realized. The safe wasn't worth much, just a few $100s. But inside were my passport, my birth certificate, and a small stash of cash. I thought about all the times Katie had bragged about her husband's business deals. What if one of those deals had gone bad? What if someone was looking for something connected to him? I needed answers, and unfortunately, that meant talking to Katie. The next morning I went back to my parents' house. Katie looked like she hadn't slept at all. She was wrapped in a blanket, sipping coffee with a blank stare. My mom hovered nearby, glancing nervously between us as I walked in. "I need to talk to Katie alone," I said. "Of course," my mother said quickly. "I'll be in the kitchen." She left without arguing. This was new. Usually she couldn't resist inserting herself into every conversation. Katie didn't say anything at first. I pulled up a chair across from her and waited until she finally looked at me. "Did your husband have any enemies?" I asked bluntly. Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, was he involved in anything shady? Business deals that might have pissed someone off?" She shook her head. "No. He was always so careful about that sort of thing. He hated risk." "Careful? Katie, he stole 50 grand from our family and disappeared. I wouldn't call that careful." Her face crumpled, and for a second I thought she was going to cry again. But instead she gritted her teeth and said, "I didn't know he was capable of this. He seemed perfect. I don't know how I missed it." I sighed. "Look, I'm not here to kick you while you're down. But someone broke into my place last night. They tore the place apart and stole my safe." Her eyes widened. "What? Why would they? I was hoping you could tell me." "I have no idea," she said, shaking her head. "Do you think it has something to do with him?" "I don't know. But the timing is too strange to ignore." She was silent for a moment, thinking. "There was one thing," she finally said. "A few weeks before he left, he got a package in the mail. He wouldn't tell me what it was, just said it was work stuff. He got really secretive after that. I thought maybe it was a surprise gift or something." "What kind of package?" "Small, like a shoebox. I didn't see him with it after that day." I frowned. Could the break-in have something to do with this package? Maybe whoever broke into my place was looking for it, thinking I had it. "Anything else strange?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "He started taking more money out of the bank." I asked why, and he said he was just being cautious. He didn't trust credit cards anymore. I thought it was strange, but I didn't push it. It didn't help much, but it confirmed one thing: her husband had been hiding something. And now whatever he was involved in was bleeding into my life. That night I did some digging. I found one of his old business profiles on the internet. It wasn't much, just a rundown of his past projects. But one name caught my eye: a former business partner named Derek Hayes. I vaguely remembered Katie mentioning him once, saying they'd had a falling out. I found Derek on LinkedIn and sent him a message, half expecting him to ignore it. To my surprise, he replied within an hour. "I was wondering when someone from your family would reach out. We need to talk. Call me." He included his number. My hands tightened around the phone. This was escalating quickly, and I wasn't sure I was ready for whatever came next. But if I was going to protect myself and maybe even my family, I had to get to the bottom of this. I dialed the number. "Peter," Derek answered after the first ring. "You have no idea what kind of trouble you're in." Derek wasted no time. "Your sister's husband, Ryan?" "Yeah, he's been running a long con," he said. "He cheated on me a year ago, then disappeared. Looks like your family's next." I leaned forward and grabbed the phone. "What kind of scam?" "Investment fraud," Derek explained. He'd convince people to fund bogus projects. Really convincing guy, always kept up appearances. Last time I saw him, he mentioned something about retiring soon. I figured he was planning a big score before he disappeared for good. My mind raced. Ryan had emptied my parents' savings, but that didn't explain the break-in at my apartment. But why would someone break into my apartment? I asked. "Because Ryan's not just running from angry investors," Derek said. "He's running from some people you don't want to mess with. People who want their money back. They probably think you or your family have something valuable, maybe that package he was hiding." The package. Katie's shoebox-sized mystery package. "Do you think they're looking for that package?" "Probably," Derek said. "If they think you have it, you're in their crosshairs." I hung up, my head spinning. This whole mess wasn't just about a runaway husband anymore. It was about a dangerous scam, and now I was caught up in it. But the question was, where was Ryan, and what the hell was he doing with the package? I called Katie the next morning. "Do you remember anything else about the package?" I asked. She paused. "Wait, actually, yes. He put something in the attic of our parents' house around the same time he got the package. He said it was just some old files." My stomach dropped. Of course it was. If Ryan had put whatever he was hiding in the attic, that meant it was still there, and whoever broke into my apartment might be after my parents next. "I'm coming over," I said. When I got there, my mom and dad were already nervous. I quickly explained what was going on, how Ryan had tricked dangerous people, how someone might come looking for the package he'd hidden. My father's face darkened with fear. We climbed into the attic, the dusty smell overwhelming. After a few minutes of searching, Katie called out, "I found something." She pulled out an old box marked "Documents." Inside, under some papers, was a small locked box. It matched her description of the package perfectly. "Let's open it," I said. "No key," Katie muttered. We didn't have time to look for one. I grabbed a screwdriver and picked the lock. Inside were several stacks of counterfeit bearer bonds, illegal financial instruments that could be traded anonymously. This wasn't just a scam. Ryan had dabbled in high-stakes financial fraud. No wonder people are after him, I muttered. Just then, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I hesitated but answered. "Peter, it's Ryan," said the voice on the other end. For a second I couldn't believe it. "You've got to be kidding me." "Listen," he said urgently. "I know you're angry, but I don't have much time. I screwed up. Those bonds in the attic belonged to dangerous people. I was supposed to deliver them, but I ran away. They think your family has them now." "Yeah, I noticed," I snapped. "Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused?" "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "But if you give them the bonds, they'll back off. I can send someone to pick them up safely." "Right. And how do I know this isn't another one of your scams?" "Because I'm desperate, Peter. If they find me first, I'm dead." After weighing my options, I decided to call Derek again. He had connections with law enforcement and helped arrange for the bonds to be turned over to the authorities. We set up a meeting at a neutral location under police surveillance. The men who had been chasing Ryan showed up, angry, but eventually backed off when they saw the cops. Ryan didn't come back. He went into hiding. I doubted I'd ever see him again. But at least the threat was over. After that, things slowly returned to normal. My parents were shaken, but they finally admitted how wrong they'd been about me. They apologized not just for the past few months, but for all the years they had put Katie on a pedestal while dismissing my struggles. Katie and I also grew closer. She was rebuilding her life, working through the emotional fallout of being betrayed by someone she thought she knew. As for me, things were finally starting to look up. With the scam behind us, I threw myself back into my job, knowing that I'd fought through the worst that life could throw at me. And this time, I wasn't carrying the weight of resentment. Update. Hey guys, just wanted to say thanks for all the advice and support after my last post. Things have finally calmed down. The fake bonds have been turned over to the authorities and the people who were after us have backed off. Katie is working on getting her life back together, and my parents, well, they've finally started treating me like an equal. We still have problems, but at least they respect me now. As for me, my job is going great, and I finally have some savings. I even got a random bonus last week. It turns out the startup's latest project made a bigger splash than we expected. I'm just focusing on moving forward. Life isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was a few months ago. Thanks again, Reddit. I owe you all. New and unexpected twist. I thought the drama was behind me until a few days later when I got a strange letter in the mail. It was postmarked from some remote town in South America. No name, just a small emblem on the back, an abstract snake wrapped around a tree. Inside was a single line. You've only touched the surface. The debt isn't gone. I stood there in my kitchen, reading the note over and over. What the hell did it mean? Before I could process it, my phone buzzed with another message from an unknown number. Find out who sent this letter. It's bigger than you think. I had a sinking feeling. Just when I thought I was free of Ryan's mess, I might have been dragged into something even deeper.